now from the days of aviation. We're going back in time because mention the name Sir Francis Drake, and I suppose you might think of the Spanish Armada or possibly Bowles. Remember, he played allegedly when the Armada was coming up the water, I think. But for one Somerset man, Drake has become quite an obsession.
Yes, Michael Turner is a teacher from Somerset and has spent 30 years trying to find his last resting place. Our Somerset correspondent Clinton Rogers reports.
For the Drake scholar, this is the spiritual spot to be. This is where Drake is buried.
It may be unfair to call Michael Turner obsessed, but then this is a man who's devoted more than half his life to following Drake's footsteps and finding his watery grave. It's a fascination which has taken him to 42 countries at a personal cost of nearly £100,000. History has it that Drake died of dysentery in 1596 off the Pacific coast of Panama, and he was buried at sea in a lead coffin. Well, now this Somerset teacher believes he's closer than he's ever been to finding his Holy Grail. Just 2 weeks ago in Panama, he dived 170 feet into the blue abyss amid the turtles. A dive which he believes took him to the very spot of Drake's final resting place, though he never saw the coffin, still buried in the silt.
We've physically been closer to Sir Francis Drake in his lead coffin than anybody else in the history of the world.
Plymouth was Sir Francis Drake's home, though even in this city, opinions are divided as to whether the man should be repatriated, if his lead coffin can be found. There are those who believe that would be a fitting tribute to a naval hero. There are equally those who say anyone buried at sea, whoever they are, should be left in peace. Clinton Rogers, BBC Points West.
And you saw him there. Michael Turner is with us now. So you said you want to find Drake's grave. What do you want to do when you find it?
I will let the public decide on that, because once you've found a wonderful prize like that, people's mind starts to change. But as I've followed Drake from the cradle to the grave, in 33 years actually, and we dived to the exact spot in theory where that coffin is, and I would love just to kneel beside that coffin and say, Francis Drake, you're responsible for me spending £100,000 going to 246 places to document your life, and I'd like to kneel beside the grave, and that's the right that anybody has to visit a graveside.
Why are you so fascinated with him?
Well, I learned about him when I was a student in school in Burnham-on-Sea, and every year we heard a story that was different about him, and he represented a character who was 10 times larger than life. And when you follow Drake with a camera, you just realise what a huge life that he had, tramping across the jungles of Panama, sailing around the world, running aground on a coral reef, and to actually stand on the reef where those guns were jettisoned into the abyss is a wonderful experience, and it's putting pictures to history, which a lot of us don't do, and we really need to put pictures to history now.
It's cost you a lot of money, as you mentioned, but it's also given you enormous adventures, hasn't it?
Yes, and in February we did a hike through the Panamanian jungle. It was the hardest thing I had to do. I had to train on the Mendips in the snow in -2 degrees to end up sweating in 29 degrees, living in the jungle for 8 days, sleeping in a hammock was your only comfort at the end of a day's hike.
And this is draking.
Yes, you have to become a drakeologist to appreciate what draking encompasses.
And I'll just pick up on one thing that you said during the package then. You said it's not obsessed, didn't you? What did you say?
Well, if I were a professor, you'd say I was highly specialised.
Yeah.
And I'm accused of being obsessed, and Drake was accused of being a pirate when he was a privateer. So there's a subtlety in language which you must adopt when you specialise. Okay.
Interesting. What an incredible story, an incredible adventure.
Drake would appreciate that we have to go to the weather. But in a word, did he play bowls when the Armada was coming up to the channel or not?
That's the legend which he is most known for. We don't know.
Oh, you don't know. OK. Thought it'd be worth asking. Thank you. So nice of you to come in and tell us about your adventures.